Sir, when you first got on in that short little segment, you said they're attempting to establish, and I want you to go over this in your own words, a global dictatorship. That's what PNAC, of course, called for. And speak to that and the madness of these people. I understand that they are inbred, they're entitled, many of them are addled by decadence, and I see other elites actually warning of this at a record level. You're not the only one saying this. There are people in the system, as you know. So speak to their goals, speak to how they think they'll execute this final takeover, and then speak to what some of your inside sources are telling you. They've got to be horrified.
Well, the fact of the matter is we have only one real problem that is a central problem. That's called the British Empire. Now, the British Empire still exists. It's essentially not, it's a monarchy, yes, but the real character of the British Empire is it's a monetarist system. It's an evolution from the original Roman Empire, from the Byzantine Empire, which collapsed, from the Crusader system, which also collapsed. And now this was created as a new Venetian system in its time, which became the British Empire. But the essence of this thing is a monetarist system. And the capital of the monetarist system in the world today, largely as a result of the corruption of the United States, and it's our destruction of our own constitution, essentially, the British Empire does really act as the center of the control over this planet.
Sure, it's a British Empire model of crony capitalist, insider, money changer manipulation. It's not capitalism, it's gangsterism.
Well, it is, but what it is actually is it's evil. It's like the Roman Empire. And we've got a president of the United States who thinks like one of the Roman emperors. But the thing is the system which this process has tried to control has reached the point that as wars have gone on, the methods of killing in warfare have been improved. We've now reached the stage that if you want to conduct a serious war on a global scale, you have to use the available weapons, which are thermo-nuclear weapons. So we have a small group of people. Most of Wall Street, they're clowns. They're not really serious people. But they're all tied to this British monarchical system, which is a monetary system, and not all the people are not in on it. It's a very small number, but they are controlling the world. So now here's what we have. We've reached a point. The existing system, we came out of World War II with a victory. Truman was a disaster, and we began to go down. Eisenhower was fairly good in terms of defending on all issues and saved us. Kennedy did an excellent job as president, but they killed him. And then they killed his brother. Now, the result of killing both Kennedy and his brothers, number one, we got World War II, or rather, not just World War II, but we got the breakdown system of the Indochina War. It would never have happened if Jack Kennedy had not been assassinated.
Vietnam, yes.
And that went on for about 10 years, when you take the whole effect of the Indochina War. The result was that everyone was scared, because the cover-up of the assassination of Kennedy, who did it, scared everybody. Then we got into a system of more wars. For example, more British wars, wars in Asia. And we had this buildup of a permanent system of warfare.
And now they've run out of people to conquer. They've run up to China, they've run up to Pakistan, they've run up to Russia, and the Russians and Chinese aren't going to back off.
No, but Russia is the key figure in this thing, because Russia has the intellectual military outlook, which is very crucial in this kind of thing. Russia is really a leading space science nation. And we're going into space science. Mankind is, if we survive this nonsense, we're going to. But the problem, we are now at that point. The British Empire is doomed. It can no longer function on this planet in the way it has functioned. It can only function by destroying almost everybody else, or getting them to destroy each other. So that's the situation we face. And many of us know this. We know the facts. But there are reasons why various people don't talk about it, like our official military leaders who do know this. But they don't want to go through all the details. There are good reasons for that. I can speak freely.
Stay there. We got a long segment coming up. Let's look at it from their perspective, though. How they think they'll play us off against each other in a nuclear war. That type of divide and conquer madness. This isn't like it's two pygmy tribes are playing off against each other. Pro-America to let a bunch of foreign megabanks run us into the ground and start giant wars that could lead, most analysts say, Lyndon LaRouche isn't fear-mongering here. Many analysts are saying this could easily lead to World War III. Google it. The top brass keeps saying, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And the bankers who are so crazy, you've seen the emails from Goldman Sachs, going, oh, let's sell some bleeping you-know-what to our customers, ripping old ladies off. They are, I've been around some of these Wall Street guys. A guy that was high level in it, worked with George Soros' son, was Max Kaiser. And he said that they saw the clients as scum, and they told him, if you don't have a bunch of lawsuits against you for stealing, you're not doing your job. Now get in there and steal. These are people who run the aircraft carriers, the spy satellites. They run America. You look at it, they call the shots, and where do they come out of? The city of London within London. And they're dangerous. They're hubris-filled. They're mad dogs. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't make their horses consulate like Caligula. This has happened before. What do we do, Lyndon LaRouche, with the madness of these people and their crazy puppet who's on vacation half the month and running around guzzling alcohol on television every day? What do we do about a mad imperial elite?
You got two things. One thing, you have to have people with guts. Number two, we do have solutions that are available to us if we want to choose them, which means you have to mobilize the American people to recognize not what's wrong. That's important to consider. But when you see how wrong it is, you have to say, wait a minute, what then is right? Now, we could solve this problem if we could get the right person in as president during these months right now. First of all, Glass-Steagall. Kill off the speculation. Yes, they're going to go bankrupt, but they already are bankrupt. So you're not taking anything away from them that they have, that's theirs. They've been taking it from you. So what you have to do, you have to get Glass-Steagall first. That has to be done almost immediately. That would stop the bleeding. But it wouldn't solve the problem. We have to go to another step. We have to tell Andrew Jackson made a terrible mistake when he canceled the original system, constitutional system of banking of the United States. And if we go back to that kind of system today, but just by a declaration of government.
But he was afraid it would be taken over by private interest, but instead we got the thing that's even worse. We got a foreign central bank.
Oh, Jackson was a part of the international interest ripping us off.
Really?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, you take his successor, and you took the guy who really created him, the British spy, who did more of the dirty work against the United States in those early days than anyone else. But so that you had a ripoff of the United States, the principles of Alexander Hamilton on banking, on national banking, that principle on federal credit, that principle applied now to supplement Glass-Steagall would in itself and by itself lead to a cessation of this inflation.
And Lincoln did that, so did Kennedy, started it.
That's right. And when they killed Kennedy and got by with it and then killed his brother, Bob, and brought in you-know-whom, we started on the road all the way down. And we've been sliding down ever since. And therefore, if we would return to those principles which are our Constitution, or the actual Constitution, our actual intention, and would do it today, or start doing it today in terms of getting these bums who are not qualified for president, who can't do this kind of job, get them all out of
But that's common sense to get Glass-Steagall back in place. They're not even really discussing it. A few Congress people have tried, and then they've gotten run out of office like Dennis Kucinich. Let me ask you this, because you've put out alerts over at LaRouchePAC.com and then your executive alert system that folks can sign up for online that's indispensable. Lyndon LaRouche, again, is our guest. Why are they racing to tell Congress they don't control war anymore, which is obvious treason? Why are they openly announcing to everybody that Obama is activating a nationalization of the economy, which isn't even a nationalization because foreign banks are running it. So it's a foreign corporate takeover, receivership, like the austerity we see in Europe. We're going under that same system. What is their plan? Why are they moving all of this into high gear?
They want to eliminate the memory of the United States. And we don't have people so far who've had the guts and the position to throw Obama out of office. If Obama is not thrown out of office, you better kiss the United States goodbye where you still have the chance.
Wow. So let me be clear, because I know some of the same interests are behind Romney that are behind him, and more now Romney is the presumptive person there.
He doesn't figure as very important, except as a nuisance in my record.
Okay, so you're saying they're going to give it to Obama if...
Obama, they don't care. What they want to do is destroy the United States. If they destroy the United States, then the only obstacles to destruction of the planet lie in Russia, China, India, and so forth, which are major powers in their own right. But if the United States goes, and we're about to go, if the dictatorship, the fascist dictatorship, by this president we have now, if that's allowed to continue, you're not going to have a United States, and you're probably not going to have a world.
Well, I think you just said it. You put your finger on it, and I want you to elaborate, please, sir. They have the head of the CIA come out and say, yeah, we're spying on you without warrants 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago. Right. We have government openly announcing that we're run by foreign powers and the Congress is vestigial or ceremonial, openly. We have just a flaunting of corruption now, banning protest, arresting people for filming. I mean, the system has put the message out, drive them into submission. And you're saying that's to fully break us and make a clean break with freedom.
This is like Adolf Hitler. You know, you go into the picture of how Adolf Hitler came to power. He was treated originally as a joke by most Germans until he took his measures and started assassinating people and putting them in prisons. And then that took over, and he was run by the British at that time. Hitler was a British creation.
I want you to elaborate, because people think that's a joke. That's why the deputy Fuhrer flew over with a treaty, parachuted out, they locked him up for life, and those documents have come out that they set him up in intelligence. He thought he was going to have an alliance with England, a deal to go into France. They would then team up and take out the Russians, and this is why he wouldn't bomb the British cities. He kept saying, we have a deal. The king was a Nazi. He had to advocate. See, people don't know this history. Please elaborate on that.
Well, just take the case of the guy who created Hitler by saving him from bankruptcy. Prescott Bush, the father of George H.W. Bush and the grandfather of the George W. Bush. These people, I don't think Prescott Bush was clever. I don't think that George H.W. Bush was particularly intelligent. That was the irony of putting him in charge of the CIA was a very bad joke against the human species. And the drunken son, the dope addict, as president for 2 terms, it was not much help either. So we do have these inside jobs whose function is not to lead the world, but whose function is to make a mess of everything that should be done.
Is that why Nixon wasn't a good guy overall, but they went after him to weaken the idea of a real president?
No, he wasn't a real president. What you take the case, you say, we understand why the oligarchy ordered the assassination of John F. Kennedy. One of the reasons was to prevent him from stopping us from going into long wars in Asia. But then why did they kill Bobby, his brother, later? Well, Robert Kennedy was about to win the Democratic nomination for president. And by killing him, they cleared the way for Nixon. And Nixon was simply a dumb bunny, bad news.
No, I know that, but why did they then set him up?
They set him up. They set him up because they wanted to look what you got. You got after that, with a little adjustment, you got Carter. Carter was the living joke of American history. And
you had the Trilateral crew in there, total New World Order agents. Okay, so So this oligarchy really thinks, because that's their plan, they're even selling, oh, nuclear wars are doable now. I see that in defense publications. Let's have a nuclear war. I mean, cook some hot dogs, on it.
Nuclear war is not on the table anymore. Thermonuclear war. And people talk about nuclear war. We're talking about thermonuclear war.
You're right, thermal, excuse me, much more powerful.
Yeah, we're not. It's not only that, it's qualitative. You're talking to a completely different kind of universal chemistry. I mean, it can be understood in general. And we can go to matter-antimatter systems. But before going to matter-antimatter systems, we're now at the point of thermonuclear weapons. And the thermonuclear weapon capability, which is represented best in terms of best quantity, best ability, is by what? It's by the Ohio-class systems, submarine systems. But if you start using that, remember, if you're trying to put Russia and China and India against the United States in particular, what are you setting up? These are thermonuclear powers, which means that the one who wants to start the war as a thermonuclear attack is going to go throw everything they can at a first shot at the targeted nations. And in a couple of seconds later, then Russia, China, and India are going to know that that's happened in their direction, and they're going to return the favor. Now, what is the planet going to look like after you get that kind of thermonuclear warfare exchange going on? You're not going to have food because you're going to be killing off the means on which, and you're going to create weather conditions from just that simple set of exchanges.
But they're willing to do it because they have a fantasy of reducing the population and then emerging from their bunkers a few years later.
It's worse. It's worse. What they're doing now, the British are operating, and it's the British. It's the British monarchy. He's the center of this, nobody else. Obama's simply a British puppet anyway. But the British monarchy is they think of themselves as an empire. They think of themselves as an empire in the tradition of the Roman Empire. It's called the oligarchical system. And this group is now operating on the basis that they are dead. If they try to function on a normal basis, they're finished. There's no chance for them. So how are they going to survive? If they can destroy the United States, destroy Russia, China, and so forth, without getting too much damage done to themselves, they can regain their empire. Otherwise, they don't give a damn. And the British monarchy doesn't care who lives or dies. It just cares on one thing, that there will never be a ruling force on this planet to take the role away from the British Empire.
Well, have you also noticed that Petraeus and others are getting all these foreign knighthoods, that it's in the Constitution, that that's illegal? They're entering an agreement and being part of an organization of a foreign government. They're just flaunting the usurpation of our country, I guess trying to set the legal precedent by possessing us. Possession is 9/10 of the law.
Well, you look at the Bush family. George H.W. Bush. He was one of the first to get one of these nice appointments as a British subject. And he went on to become president of the United States. Who's working for whom?
Well, it's incredible. People don't know that you get this patronage. You get houses, money, all sorts of stuff with that. I mean, it's an open payoff.
This is the way the system works. George Bush, H.W. Bush, is really nothing. I mean, as a man, he's nothing in terms of the standard of a leader of a nation. He's a wimpy, old wimpy George. But what happens, these puppets, like George H.W. Bush and his silly son, they get made figures. They made objects of worship in the U.S. political system. And therefore, the prestige that is awarded to them, which isn't worth anything really, then becomes a lever to cause awe among the unsuspecting citizens who don't know what the devil is going on here, because nobody's telling them to speak of it.